Today's agenda is really looking at some of the automated type tools that we can use to help us create our drawings more efficiently. Doing some little bit of work up front can help us to then create our drawings much more efficiently, not only for ourselves but for our team as well. So the agenda is there. We're going to talk about drawings and formats and templates. Okay, what the difference is. We're going to look at detail options as well. Your drawing standards effectively. Title blocks relates back to the formats and templates, and then we'll look at symbols and tables, and then just have a little chat about you know, the model-centric approach that we have with the 2D, 3D type environment. Okay, so what are drawing formats? Okay, so in Creo, we have a drawing file, which is a DRW file, which we're probably all familiar with. However, we also have a format file, which it has a different extension. It's FRM, and effectively, the format file contains things that really just control things like the sheet size and the title block, and you know, if you've got a company logo and company information, that's really at the high level what it can do. It also importantly can pull through parameters, model parameters from the individual models. So if you do look closely there, you'll see that this is how a format would look if you opened the format. In other words, you know, you'd see things like the title. Okay, so ampersand description means it's going to pull the model parameter called description. Okay, so it can pull it from the model. It can also pull it from a drawing, so you can actually pull the drawing file name, and also it can be sort of on the fly as well. So it works a few different ways. Okay, but basically, you know, that's really what it is. It's just something that defines our page size. So you will note there that you can define different page sizes. So a format, once you've chosen a size, it is that size, and you can then, if you have a format, it might be A3 format. Okay, and then you might have another one which is A4 format or A0 format. Okay, and so in those scenarios, you know, things might be of a different scale, perhaps. So they can be all different. So going in a little bit further into this, so the parameters would be automated. So we would need to, you know, set this up, and this would need to match with whatever our models would have. So there's for example, the ampersand description parameter or the description parameter that needs to exist in our model. Okay, if that doesn't exist, then no sense calling it out here. All right, so we can certainly customize what we see in that table. We could make a description name or something, okay? As long as we've got a parameter in our model that's called description name, then it's fine. So it's generally very unique and very specific about what sort of parameters we want to pull through. Shown here is a really simple example where we're maybe not in a Windchill environment or not in a data management solution environment, but we can also pull through Windchill parameters. So things like revision or version or anything that resides in Windchill, we can also pull that through and show this on the drawing. So we have these things there because then we can have multiple sheet drawings. So if you look down the bottom there, and look, it's not formatted very well from what you see there, but if you look down in the bottom corner, hopefully you can see my cursor, it says current sheet of total sheets. So these are like parameters that will update in the drawing. So if I had a second sheet with this format in, it will then update every sheet accordingly. Okay. And yeah, that's basically, there are also, I mean, you can see here, this perhaps going back a little bit old school with respect to these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and ABCD with respect to grid references. But if you had a large drawing and you wanted to, it put a note somewhere and says refer to view note in this, A1 position, then you can. Okay, that functionality is there. It's probably not used so much, to be honest. Okay, so what if we look at, also we talk about templates. So template it's a drawing file. The way most people use templates is effectively an empty drawing file. And the reason that we do that primarily is to control our drawing standards. I'll talk about this in a moment, but DTL files. So if we want to create a drawing adhering to the AS 1100 standard, we already have a drawing file which has already got all of the settings for things like text size, dimension, leader size, note formats and things like that. Okay, to enforce our particular standard. Now, there's the Australian standard and then there's your standard. And sometimes you like to do things a little bit different. So you can change anything in there if you need to. All right. So the purpose of templates is really just primarily for most people for that. Templates does have some more advanced options. And those are things like predefining views. So if we're doing a particular job that we're doing repeatably and consistently, then we can predefine our views. So we can lay out a front view and a left view, and we can then maybe put a 3D view in there. And if we want to go further, we can start to put dimensions and annotations and show those. And we can sort of really start to automate that. Okay, I'll show you a little bit of that later. Okay, so with respect to the drawing and detail options, this is just a small part of what we do have available. This is actually taken from a format file. So if you look at the little slider bar that we've got here, inside of a format file, we have specific options related to it. Inside of a particular drawing file, we have lots more options, and you'll notice in a moment that slider bar there effectively becomes much smaller because we've got a lot more information to show. Okay, so it is very important, I suppose, for you as someone who's producing drawings to be able to consistently put out something that looks similar, not only for yourself but also for across the team. So this is what we would really include in our template file. There are multiple ways to do this, and please ask us further questions on this. There's potentially lots of detail as far as the specifics, but we can what we're trying to show here today is just very high level. Okay, so typically we want to decide on this info and these settings as early on as we can. We don't want to have to do it later, and that's just a time-saving type exercise. Not that it can't be changed later, but it's just like it will take us more time to do it.